South Africa has been thrust into an unprecedented political storm as the nation's parliament erupted into absolute turmoil. What began as a standard session meant to discuss economic policies quickly spiraled into one of the most volatile and bitter confrontations in the country's democratic history. Across the nation, citizens joined their voices in a deafening demand for the immediate arrest of President Ramaphosa. The explosive scenes within the National Assembly triggered waves of protests nationwide and raised grave concerns about an imminent constitutional crisis. From the moment the parliamentary session commenced, tension was unmistakable. Opposition benches overflowed with bulky files, stacks of papers, and folders said to contain evidence linking President Ramaphosa directly to illicit financial operations, widespread corruption networks, and the blatant misuse of presidential authority. Julius Malema, the fiery leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, was among the first to ignite confrontation. Rising to his feet, his commanding voice echoed through the chamber as he declared, "Mr. President, you sit there pretending to lead with hands tainted by the looting of this nation. You have stolen. You have lied. You have betrayed the people. You must be arrested today, not tomorrow." His words set off a storm of chaos inside the assembly. Members of the African National Congress, ANC, rushed to shield the embattled president, but their shouts were drowned out by opposition MPs who pounded their desks in rhythm, chanting, "Arrest him! Arrest him!" The Speaker of Parliament struggled desperately to restore order, her gavel pounding repeatedly as she called for discipline, but her pleas were buried beneath the roar of outrage filling the hall. At one dramatic point, several EFF members surged toward the president's bench, waving documents and shouting accusations. Security personnel quickly intervened, forming a human barrier to prevent a physical confrontation. The sitting had to be adjourned not once, but 3 separate times, as tempers flared, insults flew, and members nearly came to blows. The atmosphere was electric, part theater, part battleground. "This parliament cannot continue under the shadow of a criminal president," one opposition MP shouted, drawing loud applause from opposition benches and gasps from the ruling party members. Yet the fury outside parliament was even more combustible than within. In cities including Johannesburg, Durban, Pretoria, and Cape Town, thousands of South Africans poured into the streets carrying placards emblazoned with messages such as "Ramaphosa must go," "Justice for South Africa," and "No one is above the law." In Soweto, a sea of protesters clad in red shirts chanted relentlessly, "Arrest Ramaphosa. Arrest him now." In Gauteng, taxi associations joined the uprising, blocking major highways and bringing traffic to a complete standstill, an act of defiance unlike anything seen in years. Outside Parliament, police clashed with demonstrators as security forces erected barricades to stop crowds from breaching the chamber. Clouds of tear gas filled the air while the sharp crack of rubber bullets echoed through the streets. Social media exploded with fury. Within minutes, hashtags such as #ArrestRamaphosa, #Ramaphosa must go, and #SouthAfricansRise trended globally. Videos capturing the bedlam inside Parliament went viral, igniting further protests in nearly every major South African city. This eruption followed shocking revelations that have shaken the foundations of South African politics. President Ramaphosa has been accused of maintaining secret offshore bank accounts and engaging in mysterious international business deals worth millions in undeclared funds. Investigations have reportedly tied him to the misuse of state resources for personal luxury, including lavish property purchases, and to an alleged attempt to conceal vast amounts of foreign cash linked to the infamous Fela farm scandal. According to insiders, the illicit sums involved were far larger than initially disclosed, suggesting a calculated cover-up. Adding to the turmoil were sworn statements from ANC insiders alleging that Ramaphosa protected corrupt political allies and shielded officials implicated in state capture, all to secure his own political dominance. These bombshell claims, supported by documentation soon to be presented before Parliament, have sent shockwaves through the political landscape. Opposition parties argue that the evidence is more than sufficient not only to remove Ramaphosa from office but to have him prosecuted and imprisoned. Julius Malema and other opposition figures vowed to file an emergency motion demanding his immediate arrest, declaring, "Justice delayed is justice denied." South Africans will not rest until accountability is served. Perhaps even more startling than the opposition's anger is the growing discontent within Ramaphosa's own party. Senior ANC figures who once stood firmly beside him are now quietly distancing themselves. Reports indicate that internal party factions have been holding late-night crisis meetings, debating whether to cut ties with their scandal-tainted leader to prevent the party's collapse. One senior ANC official admitted, "The president is isolated. The demands for his arrest are not just coming from the opposition anymore, they're coming from within our own ranks. The people have spoken. He cannot survive this." Beyond the political elite, ordinary South Africans, weary from decades of corruption, unemployment, and unfulfilled promises, have found their collective voice. From small rural villages to the heart of Johannesburg, one sentiment echoed everywhere: enough is enough. In Durban, a protester shouted to TV cameras, "We are tired of leaders enriching themselves while our children go hungry." If this were any other citizen, they'd already be in jail. Why not him? In Pretoria, university students marched across campus waving South African flags turned upside down, a universal sign of distress. Their chants of "no justice, no peace. Arrest him now" reverberated throughout the city. As fears of escalating unrest spread, businesses shut their doors early. Religious leaders, labor unions, and civic organizations appealed for calm, but they also demanded truth and accountability. Many warned that silence or political stalling would only deepen public anger and widen the chasm of distrust between citizens and their government. Legal experts have cautioned that South Africa now stands on uncertain constitutional ground. Should Parliament proceed with a formal motion of no confidence or impeachment, it could mark the fastest downfall of a presidency since Jacob Zuma's ousting in 2018. Yet unlike Zuma's slow political decay, this crisis is being driven by an outraged public demanding not inquiries or negotiations, but immediate handcuffs. Opposition parties have already filed emergency petitions with the National Prosecuting Authority, NPA, urging the swift filing of criminal charges against the president. Civil society coalitions are organizing massive nationwide demonstrations for the coming weekend, some threatening a total shutdown if Ramaphosa is not arrested. The pressure is rapidly approaching a breaking point, with the government struggling to contain growing public fury as security forces brace for the unrest ahead.